I know there's times where I've advertised myself to do one thing and it was just because I was figuring it out and I wasn't the best at what I did right then and there, and somebody relied on me to show up for something and it didn't go out as nicely as it could have. I feel like this has been the longest jump ever. I'm still hurdling 5 years later. As we got closer and closer to the actual event, things just started falling apart. It was like trying to hold water with your hands. It was just, everything was just slipping through. And I'm like, is that?
What I will say first off is, this is a rated G podcast, right?
Oh.
No,
shit.
Hi, everyone. That's Marie.
And I'm Jay.
And welcome again for new episode of Good Soup After Dark. And
yeah, we just want to remind you guys, if you like what you see, please like the video. If you want some more, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Ding!
ding.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a growing small channel, and we're getting these opportunities to interview these different artists. And, the more that you show your support, the more that it will help us grow. We're trying to branch off to different things, different spaces. Recently, I started doing some live editing, so, be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, please enjoy this interview that we have. Very insightful young man, and I say that as a 33-year-old person, but kind of dates me. He's an insightful young man, but he is a very insightful young man, and it was a pleasure to interview him. We do hope you enjoyed this episode and watch it in its entirety. You don't want to miss any part of it. And now, without further ado, this new episode of Good Soup
After Dark.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Good Soup After Dark. I'm Jay Gonzalez. We have Morihrihart behind the camera on the ones and twos. And tonight we have another special guest for you. He's a man that wears many hats. I think when we discussed it, he views himself more as a project manager, like the one that kind of brings everyone together. He's a producer, he's a bit of a musician, just all around decent guy, artist. We have Kyree. How are you tonight?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Not too bad. And we have a couple spectators here. Just want to shout you guys out, CSW, T, who is T. I'll make sure I put your handles right here. I'll do that in post. But before we get into it, man, I just want to let you know your camera's right there. Just tell the people who you are, where they can find you.
So as Jay said, I'm Kyree. You can find me on Instagram at Kyree4King. So that's Kyree, the number 4, KYNG. That's I would say my main social platform. It's the same handle for all my social medias though. So LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. I'm not on TikTok though. So yeah, any other platform you can find me on.
I think that was our first LinkedIn plug ever on this show.
I feel professional.
So we'll make sure we put all those links down in the description below so you can find them pretty easily. And yeah, let's just get into it. Putting out your new single, Big Booty. No, I'm just kidding.
How'd you know?
No, but in all seriousness, man, just want to kind of get into who you are. And like we mentioned right in the start, you kind of consider yourself more of was it a project manager and producer, one or the other? Can you just break that down for us, like what you do?
Yeah, so I would say project management. Producer is, I would say, a sub-tag that I use, and it's mostly because I do film. But they're both very essential yet ambiguous titles. And I would say they kind of do similar things in different industries. I feel like project management and a project manager could be used more socially. It's more socially accepted. Like when you think of a producer, you're either right away thinking of film or music, whereas a project manager could be somebody who's an engineer, somebody who works in law. Like it really can apply to any project. How I necessarily align with that in my career is when I'm working on set, I'm a producer. When I'm working on other creative projects, I'm a project manager.
And what are some of those creative projects that you would consider yourself more of a project manager than a producer like you would on set? Can you explain what that means?
Yeah. So when I'm doing project management and it's not on set, well, we know creativity is a huge realm, so it could range from anything from music to visual art. But also, as some know, but some don't, I also do a lot with education and workshops. So a lot of times project management is bringing that project together, facilitating, allocating resources or the right people to really bring this project alive and make sure that it thrives. So sometimes it's not necessarily just on set when I'm doing film or when I'm doing music. Sometimes it's more so about education or even the planning to get to set, right? Like, so all the stuff that we do before we get on set, that's project management.
So when you say like the educational programs that you help facilitate, like who is the target for that? Is that like a professional educational thing? Is that like something that's open to the public? Would you mind just kind of getting more into that?
Yeah, I would say in the future, leaning towards more professional to then integrate it with anybody. Right now, it's really anybody I can in my reach, like anybody that is looking for more resources, anybody that's looking for advice, consulting, anything like that, more niche specific. I directly do a lot of project management and program mentorship with the youth. And so that's youth usually in the arts, but mentorship is something that's kind of been lost nowadays. So I try my best to provide that where I can.
And you're 23?
22.
22.
Yeah.
All right, so you're 22, and like I'm just kind of picking up on like the whole mentorship thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a 33 going on 34-year-old old fart, and like I'm not even thinking about mentorship like that.
Yeah.
Like as far as like my own roles, like can you talk about the importance of mentorship, especially like trying to like guide the youth when it comes to like creative fields in the arts?
I would say for mentorship, as it relates to my direct community, it's something that is very important for me because a lot of times, especially in Black communities, there's not a lot of mentorship or just a lot of inspiration or things to look up to. And so it's very important for me because I had very good inspirations as parents, as friends, and as family that were very big influences on my life and the way that I lived my life and my life decisions. So it's important to me to give that back, especially in not only these inner cities that we live in, but as a whole across America, as we see not only just in my community specifically as the Black community, but in other marginalized communities as well, that usually there's a disconnect, and that disconnect the gap in there could be filled by somebody that just could take the lead a little bit and provide some resources, provide some reassurance, provide some care, provide some help and support in whatever anybody is trying to accomplish.
You mentioned just like the different influences, like especially when it comes to mentorship, and it's probably like a real kind of easy thing to like your parents. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about their influence on you and like where you are today and how that got there?
Yeah. So my parents were a big influence on me. My dad, he was a big DJ, so growing up, there was a lot of musical culture, musical influence from different genres, different ranges. I think a lot of times, like when I think about it, he really wanted me to be his prodigy in terms of DJing. But just blessing that he passed down the music gene in general, because I became more of an artist and somebody that cared about music as an art more than like DJing itself. I love the culture of it. I love the art form of it. But it's not really in my hands to be the next top DJ. As far as my mom, somebody who also was very into music, gave me a lot of culture when it came to music, a wide range of genres, but also took a lot of time and pride in writing and just articulating herself very well. So a lot of like what I learned as far as how to write and how to articulate came a lot from her as well. And together, my parents did conduct a lot of business, so I feel like she was a lot of times more of like the business savvy side, and he was like the more like boots on the ground creative person. So I feel like in me, I definitely have that split. It's not always 50-50, but it's definitely in there. Like a lot of times I'll be pulling from my creative side, and from that I'll be like, oh, okay, well, how can I monetize this? How can I make this a business? How can I make longevity, generational wealth from this? So from there, I feel like I definitely got my mom's influence of that. But overall, my strength and my confidence in myself and in my creative ability definitely came from both of them in terms of how they carry themselves with their creative endeavors and their like life choices that have then influenced me to just be like, well, I'm gonna go, f- it, I'm gonna do it. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, a lot of stuff. I just, like you said, I wear a lot of hats. So like, I've done everything from DJing to video creation to, again, like that project management, like everything in between that line and how they all tether and connect to each other in some way, shape, or form. I've most likely done it. Now, have I liked it or been good at it? Not everything is going to be a 10, but like most things I've done, and then as I've done them and as I continue to learn more and complete them, I figure out what I like, what I don't like, what I would want to do for the rest of my life, and what I'm like, I could delegate that to somebody else. Like, I don't ever want to do that again. For me, I know when we talked, you said differently, but for me, editing is one of those things. I'm like, I could delegate that to somebody for the rest of my life. I don't want to sit there on a computer and edit something all day. I don't have the capacity for it. I don't really care to do it. In a director's standpoint, in a director's mindset, I could see how I want pieces of a puzzle to fit together, how I want something to come out, but I don't want to do it. Yeah.
On the other hand, I love it. I feel like I can manipulate space and time. That's just how I view it. I don't like real puzzles, but I like the puzzle of editing.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I mean, that makes sense. Especially like the delegation thing, like with what Maria and I are doing right now and trying to like figure out, like we're always like doing everything. You know, we really hope we can like grow to the point where we can, you know, like delegate things. So like I always like talking to people in those kind of positions, and it seems nice, you know, to be able to like, you know, just kind of, it seems like you put yourself in a position where you can share your vision and just find the right people to execute it.
Yeah, I try to as much as possible. It's, I think, easier said than done.
Do you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think we're in such a fast-moving culture right now. Everybody's trying to do their own thing. Everybody's trying to be great at what they do, and everybody's trying to more or less make it or be successful in that. So a lot of the times when you are trying to connect or even delegate, it can either, it's taking a chance, right? Like, I know for just like example, there's been projects that haven't been completed to their best potential because I've taken chances on people that weren't necessarily the best at what they do, but that's what they advertised that they did. And I know vice versa. Like, you know, I know there's times where I've advertised myself to do one thing and it was just because I was figuring it out and I wasn't the best at what I did right then and there. And somebody relied on me to show up for something and it didn't go out as nicely as it could have, as maybe it could have now where I'm at in terms of my skill set. And so I think even like as you figure out where you want to be in your business, it's definitely a trial and error. And a lot of it does relying on other people, which is creativity as a whole, right? Like creativity is like community is the catalyst of creativity. So a lot of that is kind of relying on other people, working with other people. But sometimes in that you have to be vulnerable. Art is sensitive, you know, especially as artists, like we're sensitive about our shit. So we have to be a little bit open to trying things. And in this fast paced, very selfish in some ways, society that we live in, it could be hard to find those people that are also willing to bet on you as much as you are on them.
Art is very selfish, I think.
Yeah.
I, with my wife, host a podcast.
right, exactly.
You know, we started off just like being behind the camera interviewing and just like, you know, being in front of the camera is kind of cool. So, you know, I do understand that. You mentioned something that kind of like struck a chord with me. Like advertising yourself as better than what you actually are when you're trying to like achieve being better at something.
Right, yeah.
Like how do you deal with the emotional turmoil with that? Like if I can just kind of, like for me, like when I look at different positions, like, cause I want to get into editing more.
Right.
Not only for just like what we do, of course, like a lot of our resources and time I want to go towards what we are making. But, you know, I also want to like branch out and do it for other people. But like, that's like one thing that's kind of like a roadblock for me, or like a mental roadblock. Like I worry, like, am I good enough to be this thing that I
Right.
say I can do.
Yeah.
Like, how have you hurdled that obstacle?
I haven't hurdled it. I feel like this has been the longest jump ever. I'm still hurdling 5 years later. But I will say that working on chipping away at that imposter syndrome, for one, and also working with people that see your value no matter where you're at. Like seeing how whatever you are bringing to the table is valuable. And I'll say that because, number one, like I said, my parents and family have been an influence on that. My friends and most recently, like my newest employer have been an influence on that. Just seeing me where I'm at, valuing me as I am, and being okay with that, and then motivating me to get better. I think it's allowed me to be able to, again, like continue to have the endurance to do that hurdle, and like deal with that emotional turmoil as it comes. But I guess in that, right, the more direct solution to your question is like surround yourself with people that you feel valued around, right? I think a lot of times as artists, as creators, as people that are trying to get better and have an insatiable desire for growth, we just want to be around the best. It's good to be around people that are better than you, but that doesn't mean that they specifically have to be better than you in that one thing, right? Like I know my friends that I'm surrounded by are better than me in other things. They're better at being more patient. They're better at freestyling. They're better at being more creative. They're better, and there's other things that I'm better at than them. I might be better organizer. I might be a better communicator. But because we're surrounded by each other, we're a powerhouse. Like, and by being that, we're able to then continue to build our own strengths, and again, like have that emotional endurance and ability to sustain even in a world where it's like you feel like you have to be the best. And I was very long-winded.
On a long-form podcast, I think that's fine.
Okay, cool.
What I will say first off is, this is a rated G podcast, right?
Oh,
No, I'm fucking with
shit.
you. No, and as far as long-winded, like this is the place I like when the last I asked you to be on the podcast, you were actually on the radio with CSWNT.
Oh yeah, yes.
And
yes.
you're like really getting into the weeds of what you're talking about. And I remember being interested. I was editing, but I had like my phone on the mount, and I was just like, huh. And it's like you're getting into it. Hey, it's 11 o'clock. Like we gotta go.
We gotta wrap it up. I'm like,
and
damn.
I remember texting you like, hey, if you want a place to just like talk, so please,
yes,
like feel free to just talk
Thank
your
you.
shit. Like, this is the place to do that.
I appreciate.
Speaking of like talking your shit, there's like one thing that I do want to, and I think like Marie can might have a couple questions about this. You work in both film and commercial, and I know Marie, if I can speak for you, like you're really into she really wants to get into commercial work. Some of the stuff that she did in like advertising, some of the stuff she did in Ukraine. Can you explain like what you do, just like general, and then maybe we can dive deeper into that?
Yeah. So it kind of goes back and touching on being great, right? Because when I'm working on film in a creative realm where it's kind of just recreational, I wear many hats, but more specifically, I wear the hats that I want to wear. When it comes to commercial, because my skills aren't, I would say, at the level yet to do something like that independently, I'm wearing whatever hat somebody will give me just so that I can get my foot in the door. And so just to kind of like, and that's kind of always the person that I've been, and I encourage, all my friends and everybody who's like looking to do more advanced work or just kind of get their foot in the door is like wear whatever hat, sock, pant like you can put on, like anything, because then you will get in that door, and from there it's up to you, right? You have to be inquisitive, you have to be willing to learn, you have to be willing to earn, you have to be willing to grow, you have to be willing to take constructive criticism. So it's like all those things that attribute to growth as a creative and as an individual will allow you to then be able to one day be on the other side of that and being the person, if you want, that can give somebody else that opportunity, or that can just be able to run their own stuff, or be able to decide where they are in terms of more elevated projects.
Can you describe some of those roles that you had within at least the commercial world?
Yeah. So I've been like everything from actually more recently, I was saying something that was a bigger project. I was working with a Temple student on their graduation project. Somebody who's won awards already for their films, a very, very talented director and cinematographer. She had asked me to substitute last minute as her assistant director for the end half of their last shooting day. So like, I'm talking like literally 4 hours. The crew and cast have already been working together and have chemistry. And I was just coming in doing a very important role. Like an assistant director is a very important role to a film. And for me, I was so nervous, bro. I was like, first of all, I'm honored that you would consider me to do this. But again, that imposter syndrome kicked in. I'm like watching YouTube. I'm like, how to be an assistant director. And it's like, I know this stuff. Like I do this stuff on a regular, but I'm just so nervous because this is just a bigger project for me than something, again, like recreational. And with that being said, I got in there and ironically, I end up seeing people that I work with even like on recreational projects. And that made me feel a lot more comfortable because again, it's just like getting your foot in the door. You start seeing more people that are doing the same things as you. You become like aware that you are aligning yourself in the right ways. So that was the probably the biggest thing that I worked on in terms of commercial. But I also have done roles such as being the person that holds the mic, like literally just holding the mic, which is a boom operator. I've also been a key grip or a grip, which is somebody that helps put together the lights and the stands, that runs tape to somebody, helps hang wires from high ceilings. And that, again, it's just like, those are the people that make things happen too, but usually by the end of the movie or whatever you're watching, you don't see their names because you already left. Yeah. They're like all the way at the bottom, but very important and essential to the production as a whole, but usually, again, like not the most glamorized positions to play. Now, some people that are really good at what they do, again, I wouldn't consider myself to be the best, key grip or best boomer ever, sound operator, but, again, getting my foot in the door and now being on a call list for these directors and these producers that need people. And now I'm like, yeah, you can email me. Like, I'll make myself available. Like, I'll do it. I'll do whatever. And then eventually being able to work your way up and play those more top level positions.
Yeah. Being on a set, it sounds intimidating. And I've actually been on a couple.
Yeah.
What
capacity?
Background actor.
Oh, that's tough.
Law and Order and Power.
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Drunk guy with long hair in the background. So like, seeing like just hearing you describe it, like I'm kind of envisioning, especially with like the
Can we
Law and
like
Order.
insert a clip? Like,
so it's Power Book of Canaan, but like they're not even on the season that I filmed for. And then I'm supposed to be it's Law and Order. It's not SVU.
oh, okay.
But it's the one with Chris Maloney. Like, we're pretty much best friends.
No.
I was like, oh, he was just on the set with me. Or I was on the set with him, excuse me. I just, like, saw him. I'm like, oh, yeah, I like watching him work.
Right.
But just, like that was, like, my first
That's
like,
awesome.
set experience ever, just being a background actor for Law and Order. And just, like, seeing how, like, everyone's working, like, all these roles that you're describing. Just like there's like 20 dudes on like a single smoke machine. Like this was a big set
seriously,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the bigger the set, the more. Yes, absolutely. There's so many more people.
And I just like remember just like standing around looking like a dummy, just like watching everybody. Like like the directors are like behind the monitor watching it, just like maybe like 15, 20 feet away, just like looking.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
right.
hey, you pretend to get drunk over there. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
But yeah, like just like even in that experience that I had, it just seems seems intimidating.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, that was just like my experience, these big sets. But like even with like the smaller sets and stuff, like it sounds like you had like, and you said you're still like learning.
Yeah.
And you're working your way up. It just sounds really cool. I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, I have a question for you. How did you get your foot in that door?
Maria and I just found a like background actor service online.
Cool. Yeah. Did you pay for the subscription?
No.
Oh, it was a free one?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to plug me in on that.
I'll put you on.
Yeah, because I'd definitely be looking for background acting work, and they're like, "Oh, subscribe, and we'll send you." I'm like, I don't trust that shit.
No, I'm not gonna. I'll send.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. Like after those experiences, like I mean, yeah, now I'm in front of the camera more, but like I'm kind of interested in like the inner workings of like like an actual scent and how that works, and I want to see like different types. So that's kind of like what we're still trying to figure out this whole YouTube thing. That's kind of like the current landscape. Like everything's fast, everything's content based, and that's kind of even hard to keep up with. Like I said, I hate sounding like an old person, a 33-year-old.
It's facts, yeah.
Like, what's the Twitches? Like,
right, no, yeah.
But then I even like kind of started like doing live streaming, like my editing and stuff. So I'm trying to learn that landscape.
And I think that's what's important, right? Like trying to be adaptable and stay current in the ways that are comfortable for you. Because I mean, like I kind of said in the beginning, like I'm not on TikTok because I'm just like, it's too fast. It's too fast. And even as young as I am, I'm just like, I really don't have the mental capacity to keep up with it. Like, and that's just me being honest and transparent about that. But, with that being said, like a lot of the times, like you have to be able to keep up with things. You have to be able to adapt to what's going on right here, right now. And even as young as I am, I'm still kind of like, like when I what is the Twitch? Like, I don't know. Like, I see it every now and then on Instagram, but I don't actively have a Twitch or anything like that. So I'm like, there are so many things. Like my girlfriend's big on like this app called Lemon 8. And I'm like, what the is that? Like, I don't know what that is, but I'm like doing research on, like Lemon 8. And I feel like a grandpa. Like, I'm like, oh man, like, I don't know what's going on. Everything's so fast. So yeah, it's trying to keep up with the landscape of everything, trying to stay relevant, and also in that, as an artist and as a creative, trying to be comfortable in that, right? Like, and show your authentic self and your authentic creativity in that. It's difficult.
So we mentioned before that you make music, but that's not like the forefront of it. But like, I'm kind of interested in like, like your experience with that. On this particular podcast and just like our work in general, like doing like different types of interviews and stuff, we meet like different types of, musicians, artists, rappers, singers. You want to talk about your music a little bit and like kind of like your influences when it comes to that? Yeah.
So for me, I won't say that I wasn't ever a artist. I'm still an artist, but I would say a performing artist. Back in 2017, me and my cousin started making music together as a way to just kind of digest our emotions as growing humans at the time. Even though we were on like, different paths, we aligned in terms of how we received and appreciated music. And from there, we just kind of were like, oh shit, like we're kind of good at this. Like, maybe we should go to the studio. From there, we just started doing more music, writing more music. And around 2019, before COVID hit, we did a couple shows and we were like, oh, wow, like this is actually super cool. Once COVID hit, it gave me a lot of time to practice my craft in terms of writing. And then when the world opened back up, I just like started putting out music, started making music, started going to shows because I was like, oh my gosh, like COVID was so crazy. Like, YOLO, like, you know what I mean? Like, I got to start living now. And at the time I was probably 18. So I couldn't like go to like a lot of like clubs or anything. And I am from Jersey. So like I was in Jersey and there isn't a lot like how Philly creative scene is. Like there's things you can still do underage. In Jersey, it wasn't really like that. So it was like, we were really trying to find our footing. And a lot of things we were doing were like performing in front of older people, and not like elderly people, but like,
straight up thinking nursing
I know,
home.
I had to make that clarification, not nursing home stuff, but like older people, a lot of like community organizations, community events, things like that. And then once I, got older and started performing in front of a crowd that was more my age, I actually didn't like it. Like I was like, for me, I feel like, and again, like with the world moving so fast too at the same time, it blindsided me a little bit. And I'm being completely transparent here. It's like I couldn't find a way to still be myself and feel like I could give the people what they wanted. And I say that because I feel like, again, just with everything being so fast, a lot of the things at the time that I was digesting wasn't true to the person that I am. And so like, just like influence can be good, it could be bad, right? And so I realized like a lot a lot of stuff that I was regurgitating wasn't authentic to where I started at with music, and definitely wasn't authentic to where I wanted to go with music. And that, and in that time, like, I fell victim to a lot of bad habits as well. And again, like, I know I'm speaking like I have this whole lived experience, but just even a year of doing bad things can set you off track from your goals. I was always the type of person that was very adamant about where I wanted my life to go, where I see myself going, and the accomplishments that I wanted to achieve. So when my life kind of started derailing, I'm like, oh, this is just artist culture, and it's like, it's not. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't again until I started being around people that luckily were aligned with the person that I wanted to be, that I was able to see, like, oh wow, like, you can actually do music for yourself. Like, you know what I mean? And in that, it's not that I fell out of love with music as a whole, but I realized, like, it's personal to me, and it's not something that I want to be so quick and so open about sharing just yet. And so even now, as like I continue to write more, and as I continue to be curious about my sound and about my position in music, I want to continue to hold that close to me, and be able to be vulnerable with the people that I know have my best interests as far as music and as far as the culture of it, but also that I can be my best self around. And so again, like, with that being said, like, music has taken me for a wild ride. And where I'm at now is just like being very intentional about it. And so with those intentions, it is my intention to, when I do and when I am ready to publicly release music, to be very direct about the message that I want to put out, and very direct about the intentions behind that message, and very direct about the people that I'm feeding my music to. And again, like, it really is just a matter of seeing the impact that it has, and the work that I've done over the last 2 years with youth and with that demographic of people. And I'm like, a lot of times, like, again, you're just digesting whatever the world or social media is putting at or giving to you and putting in front of your face. So a lot of times you don't even realize, like, how harmful it can be. And for some, it's not. Like, for some people can digest, or, take it in, not even digest it, and spit it back out, and it's fine. But my mind was still growing, and I was digesting a lot of stuff that just wasn't good for my aura and my soul. So it caused me to regurgitate things that also weren't good, and to, digest things that aren't good and that weren't good. And so, when I had that change of heart, and really, like, was like, I want to be more aligned and more intentional about what I'm putting out, I was like, all right, like, let me take a step back then. Let me look at myself and figure out what I can do and what I can adjust to be direct in that way, and be proud of what I'm putting out and what I'm doing, so that the people that are coming up under me, whether it's my kids, my friends' kids, whomever, the youth, whatever, they see that and they're like, oh wow, like, this person really cares. They're really being intentional. They're really direct, and I can be like that when I get older.
Intentional seems to be the word there.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like with, this fast-paced culture, we sound like a couple old people, like social media and all that stuff.
Right.
It's not so much focused on putting out stuff intentionally that's a certain quality. It's like content. You got to do content.
Right.
You got to put it in people's faces. They're not going to know who you are. I get caught up in it. Like, I'm always like, all right, I got to cut a clip from this, this interview. I got to cut a clip from this. I got to do this. And it's just like, I'm trying to take what you say to heart, being intentional. And like, for you too, like, just kind of observing, like, and listening, it seems like you put yourself in a really good position to, like, not have that be your only artistic expression. You find yourself expressing yourself artistically, and, working with these sets, doing these different roles, like managing these different projects. So I feel like just listening to you, I feel like you put yourself in a really good position. I think a lot of people can learn from that.
I hope so. I try. That, again, is my intention.
And as far as just like, you're saying like, I sound like I lived a long life, or like a life lived is a life lived, man. Like, you know what I mean? Whether it's like 1 year of doing bad things, or like you can't remember your 20s because you're out partying too much.
Yeah,
like,
right.
The important thing is like when you catch yourself, and if you're lucky to catch yourself.
Right.
So there's value. I just want to say there's value in like your life lessons, and like anyone can learn from that, even an old fart like me.
Thank you. That's received.
Now you also do event curation. Marie and I were actually pretty fortunate last year to attend a fashion show you did.
Yeah.
You want to talk about like that show or like the organization behind it?
Yeah. Oh wow, that was that was crazy. That was a amazing show, amazing turnout. Although we faced so many adversities, but it really gave me a sense of self and also pointed me in the direction of which I wanted to go and gave me more clarity in that. But it also allowed me to really see the people and around me and how important and valuable they are too. Yeah, that show. I'm glad that you guys had a great time.
Oh, I'm sure there's like a mess behind every curtain.
Yeah,
like, I'm not
curating
gonna be like,
it.
Yeah.
Oh, such a headache. Yeah, there was a lot that went into it. Like I said, that I would characterize as adversity. We spent, it was, I would say for the show, it was pretty last minute as far as curating it. It was, I think we were originally like maybe 2 months to the date when we first started planning, and then we were like, oh, we need to push this back a little bit because that's kind of crazy. Especially as people that were playing, again, different roles. And at the time we were working with somebody who I don't think ever threw an event, but like might have hosted things. And they were playing a pretty significant role as well. Unfortunately, and what I learned in that is that, not everyone that does good work is good to work with. And what I mean by that is, you can, again, like in this culture where you see things, it isn't always what it is. A lot of time it's a facade, you know what I mean? And I'm not, breaking down anybody's character or, how they cultivate their life. But I will say that when you see something or how somebody is represented, it doesn't always mean that that's how they carry themselves when you're talking to them one-on-one. And so, again, to kind of full circle it, what I was talking about in the beginning, as far as putting your trust in somebody, especially as it relates to your creativity, it's a challenging thing. And for this event specifically, we put our trust and our resources and our money into kind of, again, like that project management, like curating somebody else's idea alongside of some of our ideas. But with that being said, as we got closer and closer to the actual event, things just started falling apart. It was like trying to hold water with your hands. It was just, everything was just slipping through. And what I will say again was it was amazing turnout, but I think if I'm not mistaken, the day before, our main co-host pulled out the show and took, I want to say like almost half the people that we were working alongside of with the show. And I mean like models, designers, I think it was even a vendor that kind of didn't end up seeing it through. And with that being said, like my team and I were just very much had to think on our feet, and people end up wearing like several different hats. Like I remember my mom was like bartending, CSW was DJing and like helping set up. T was like working around directing people, helping like organize all the guests. Maya was doing a lot with the music artists and the models, and everybody was just like pulling together and like holding each other tight, just really like sticking together in that moment where, again, like we collaborated with somebody, trusting in somebody, somebody's vision and trusting in their ability to show up. And then unfortunately, right at the last moment, they didn't. Yeah. So like I said, I'm glad that it was great, and I'm glad that it still came together. I really think that just is a testimony to our ability to not only work together, but to face adversity and to get through it. But that did, I will say, it gave me a lot of insight as far as events, and I was like, I need to definitely be more secure in the people I work with before I do an event this big again, which is why we haven't done an event that big again. Yeah. And then additionally, because it was so special to us, we wanted to again be mindful in the next time that we do something that big, that it is just as special and it's just as creative and it's just as aligned with where we're at. So pros and cons, definitely a lot that we took away, a lot that we learned from, a lot that we grew from. But it was a hell of a show. More successful than we probably all could have imagined it would have been, especially for our first show together as a group. We all individually have worked in like the business of events, in the business of hosting, in the business of curating, but to do something together as the GLU and to do something together with your friends and it be so successful, it's just a different feeling for real.
Yeah, and like you said, that's a testament to the hard work that you guys, whether you wanted to or not, had to do. Just as people who like, I mean, Marie hung a piece, but like we were just there kind of for like the environment, just like the hang. And like Marie and I don't drink, so we didn't even have like the crutch of like, oh, we're drunk, this is a great time. Like, no, we genuinely had a nice time. Like, it was really cool. And, you know, well, first off, I just want to say thank you for like, you know, like, I don't want to say like, thank you for being honest and vulnerable, but you kind of are.
Yeah.
You know? Not too many people like know the hard work that it goes into making events. Like Maria and I don't have experience with like event curation. Like we work with people who do. Mm-hmm. And you know, like you get wind of like some of those complications,
right.
Like, you know, low turnout or just like, you know, people not showing up, you know, people that you're working with not showing up. So, you know, it's always good to hear that, but like you guys did a pretty great job. So
I appreciate
just want to get that in print.
Yeah.
And I heard some giggling in the gallery, so I figured there was something, but you know, we don't have to get like super deep into the weeds of it, but just like as far as the lessons that you learned, like, I mean, I think you kind of already answered that. Like, you want to be sure of who you're working with and you want it to be intentional.
Yeah.
It can't just be like a bunch of people like, yo, you know, it would be a great idea.
Right.
What, man?
No, seriously.
Like, you know,
seriously.
Like, it has to be like, it has to be intentional.
Yeah. Even though some ideas are definitely born from that. We've had some times too where it's been like, you know, it would be a great idea, and it's still an idea.
Yeah.
So,
no.
You know what I mean? Definitely.
Do you want to talk about the GLU a little bit?
Yeah. So the GLU is a collective of awesome, creative entrepreneurs and influencers. I would say right now our main focus is just really growth as a unit, but growth individually. The GLU came about when I was on vacation for my 21st birthday. And again, I think this is kind of how the story went. T was actually there, and I'm pretty sure what had happened was we were in the pool and we were all talking, and it got really philosophical and deep, and like, you know, it really allowed me to do some reflection. And now I don't remember if it was still on that trip or when we got home, but T at some point ended up saying like, yo, like you really bring people together, like you're the GLU. And I was just like, the GLU, like light bulb moment, like crazy. And I was like, oh my God, like that's facts. Like, because that's what I want to do. Like, that's my biggest thing, again, is like just bringing the community together, like really showing up for one another and valuing one another, and just being able to be like, wow, we did this. And then being able to be like, pass that influence on to others. And so from there, the GLU was born. And at first it was just like a whole bunch of people running around doing cool things together. And as we begin to very chip away at like just having fun with it and being more specific, it definitely turned into something that's more like just a community rather than like a business. So it was more so like, all right, well, like, how do we continue to show up for one another? How do we continue to do things together? And I hold the GLU very, very close to my heart, because I do feel like, again, it was just like a thought that was born out of realism and the reality of my life and the reality of the life that I share with my friends and my family. But I also do feel like it is a representation of the communities that I serve and the communities that I'm a part of. And just my disposition on how those communities are successful in that way. Like, it's about us sticking together. It's about us being together for one another. It's about us cultivating community and having a place for us to be ourselves authentically. And so right now, as far as the glue and the motion of it, I would just say it really has become very like lax. It really is just like whenever you see people like me, Dub, T, Maya, Jewel, like, and these are other people that aren't here in the room right now together. That's what it is. You know what I mean? It's the glue, and everybody knows that. And so, with that being said, in the future, I really had in my mind around maybe like 8 months ago, I really had an idea for like, again, where I wanted something to go, where I wanted it, what I wanted it to be, and how I directly wanted it to turn out. But as things grow and as people change and as things change, feelings change too. So I think a lot of that was just me realizing like I can't force something to be great. I have to let it be great on its own. And so, like I said, like the glue is a community and it's an organization, but it also is just a representation of individuals doing cool shit, like absolutely, like authentically and without hesitation. Like it's just us doing us and showing up for one another in a loving and caring and creative way.
And just based off of your story from the fashion show, a very appropriate name when things started falling apart.
No, for real. Yeah, it had to stick together really bad. It got really sticky.
Unintentional, but intentional.
Yeah, no, seriously. And again, like I said, this is the best time of that year. When we looked back, it was a moment to laugh. It was a moment to appreciate. It was a moment to value. And it was truly a memory and a community born.
You know what I'm thinking about when you're talking about the event? First what comes to my mind. Can you imagine if like someone directed for example, Grammy? Lots of people, and you need to manage them.
Right.
Probably that person is bold, because pulling the hair of like this stressful situation, biting the nails and pulling the hair. I think this kind of event curation can work only if people love what they do.
Absolutely.
Because if you just like idea, it doesn't mean you're gonna do it. If you love this idea and you're willing to work on it, that's where it's come from, what the magic come from.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely believe that to be true. And I think like on a small scale too, like thinking about whoever is managing the Grammy, right? There's probably a huge team of people. But just thinking like that was our Grammy, like in that moment that it was so huge to us, and it was so many moving parts. And so again, to just see the turnout and see how amazing it was, and to look back and be like, although again, I'm not going to take anything from anybody that originally participated, but I will definitely give the flowers to the people that saw it through. Like it absolutely was an amazing turnout. And so that sits very, very close to my heart as well. But yeah, for sure. My nails were gone and my hair was falling out. It was very stressful.
If you can say it was like the curate the event, it was like something. It was like a big puzzle with 1,000 pieces, or it was like, in a kindergarten, let the kids, I don't know, go to bed. Like what the complicated situation of it. How you I don't know what's the word, we call it analogy. So
how would I describe it? What would I compare it to?
But in a way what like anyone can understand.
Oh yeah, it was my Mission Impossible, James Bond. Like it was, we pulled that shit off. Like it was crazy. Like it was absolutely like jumping from train to train. It was absolutely about, putting our blinders on and being very focused on our mission. And it was about celebrating at the end. Like I think at the end we were all tired of shit, but we popped a bottle just for celebration, and we were like, all right. After that, like one sip of whatever we had, we were like, all right, it's time to go. Like we still got to take all this stuff 3 flights down the steps and pack up and go home. So, again, it was definitely our Mission Impossible. But we pulled that shit off with grace, especially like you said, being vulnerable here. Like anybody that was there that wasn't a part of the people putting it together wouldn't have known. And I'm grateful to that. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to pull something off, but it's another thing to pull it off with like swag, and nobody even know that you were straining your muscles getting this together and pulling it off the whole time. So yes, I would compare it to my Mission Impossible.
What's the biggest goal you want to achieve in anything? Because you like we're talking about, you do a lots of different stuff. So I like the word artist. I always say that most of English speaker understand the artist as someone who paints, but for me, artist is a person of the art. Is a person who do any types of art.
Right.
It can be anything from music to, I don't know, ceramic, and movies and writing books. So I ask you like an artist asking artists,
Right.
what's the goal you want to achieve, and you will understand like, oh, I get it. Now I can like, I don't know, go retirement. Like, oh, I did
Yeah,
it.
like I did it.
Now I feel like I accomplished my life, and it's like I can be done.
Well, as of my 2025 goals, my that are not going to be accomplished in 2025. My biggest goals are to retire my mom, and make Forbes 30 under 30, and specifically Forbes 30 under 30 for my leadership and impact in the creative community in the culture that I serve. Those are my biggest goals, which again, not going to be achieved this year, but we're working on them. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps.
Forbes 30 under 30. First, can we explain what that is?
Yeah. So it's basically an award given to people who reach a certain level of success under the age 30.
And you said for your leadership?
Yeah. I would love to be awarded that as a community leader. The award you can have various awards. Like there's different categories for awarding Forbes 30 under 30, but I would love to be awarded or recognized or nominated for my community leadership.
It's pretty awesome, man. That's a I don't want to say lofty because that kind of alludes to like, oh, it's just like up in the clouds, but that's a very like high goal.
Yes.
And
yes.
I mean, first off, you have plenty of time.
Yeah, right.
I mean, time moves fast, man.
It does.
Like I don't want to lie to you. Like just yesterday, I was 22. But
Yesterday?
that's what it feels like.
Okay, well, that's good then.
That's what it feels like. Time does fly, but like, just you have your youth. I hate sounding like an old man. Look here, Sonny.
Right.
You have your youth.
Yeah.
You have your spunk and your energy.
Yeah.
Just keep doing what you're doing, man, and just keep putting that energy in.
Thank you.
It's great kind of hearing like behind the scenes, like shit can fall apart sometimes. But it's also great that you can have shit fall apart and not really show it, It's good to talk about it afterwards, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
We're not here to throw people under the bus or anything, but just like kind of just sharing that experience and then learning from it.
Yeah.
So you already are, in my humble opinion, showcasing some of those traits that should be on that list.
Thank you. I humbly and truthfully receive that. I appreciate that.
Well, we spoke personally about like education or lack thereof. Like for me, like I dropped out of community college. School wasn't for me.
Right.
And then I don't want to say like fell into a trap because I don't want to add any negative connotation or any type of opinions, but like, I ended up joining the military, ended up getting into telecom, and I've been in that field for, God damn, I'm old, like 13 years.
Yeah.
And like as far as like, and Marie keeps telling me like, in a way like I'm an artist or like exploring my artistic abilities.
Yeah.
You see, I can't even still call myself
No,
that.
yeah, it'd be like that. It's like imposter syndrome.
I said it before, like, yeah, it might be imposter syndrome, but I don't know who I'm supposed to be. Like, I don't know who I'm supposed to pretend to
That
be.
definitely means you're an artist.
But
I don't think you can call yourself an artist without going through that phase of not knowing who the fuck you're supposed to be.
yeah, because like I think imposter, like, oh, you're supposed to be a specific somebody,
Right.
and I don't even know who that guy is.
Right,
you know what I
right,
mean?
yeah.
But like for me, it's kind of like more recently in the past couple of years that I've started kind of exploring those different avenues. So like I don't have an educational background in any of it. Like I dabbled in a photography class when I was in high school and like a semester-long videography class for an easy credit. I wish I actually like learned stuff from
Right.
it. But like I said, we spoke personally about this, and like I just want to like ask you about your background, and you kind of had like an interesting perspective because of COVID.
Right.
You were in high school in COVID. So as far as no college education?
Yeah, no, I would say some, but not a completed degree.
Gotcha. I didn't mean no, like you didn't go. Like
Yeah.
I just consider you don't have a degree.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. Definitely same as far as like community college dropout. And I think like even to touch on that and the stereotype of it, like I think also why it's so important for me to ironically teach, right? Is like you don't have to go a traditional route. Now I do value education and I do feel like education is important to being a successful person, but that doesn't mean that it has to come from a college textbook. Like you can get education from anywhere nowadays. You know what I mean? From other people, from YouTube, from even like specific skill-based trainings. Like that's education. Seeing the world is education. And so, however that looks for you, that can be important. I think that it's important for me to highlight that knowledge is power, but that doesn't mean that all your knowledge has to come from a college textbook. And I think, again, like to your point of kind of trying to figure out who you are, like, and what that means as far as being an artist or not being an artist, I think that's the fun part about artistry is like, it's so vast and it's so vague that you can really learn to explore that. And while you're learning and educating yourself and exploring, you get to call yourself an artist along the way. Like you get to just slap that on there because you're doing it. And so, definitely, for me specifically, like I said, I've always had, and I think when we were talking about this when I was younger, I had specific goals and thoughts about where my life would go. Specifically, I remember the first time I absolutely knew that I was going to do something, I was 6 years old, and I would break things apart and put them back together and make them different creations. I was an artist, but I just didn't know it. I thought I was an engineer. And so from 6 until 18, I told myself I would be an engineer and specifically a biomedical engineer. I wanted to go to school to make prosthetics. And so when I first graduated high school, actually, while I was in high school, I was going to college at the same time. And I spent a lot of that time, again, just trying to figure out where I wanted to go at the same time being present. But then COVID happened and everything shut down. And on top of everything shutting down, because I was taking college classes in high school, I knew what it felt like to be in college. But when everything shut down and I didn't get a graduation, I didn't get a prom, and not to like have this pity party, but it was like almost, I couldn't even comprehend it in my 18-year-old brain at the time that like all these things that I had worked for were taken away like that. And with that being said, it gave me a new perspective and it allowed me to be like, wow, you can plan shit down to a T and something can change in your environment that you have no control of and it completely shift your dreams and your reality and what you wanted to happen. And so when that happened and when everything went virtual, and again, like for me, a lot of learning again was about the textbooks at that time. But I would say I'm a personal learner. Like I like to be around other people because I'm a social learner. So a lot of times I'm learning based off of other people and our interactions and what they do and, all these social cues. So when I was isolated and kind of still in, again, high school and college, I was like, this is weird. Like I just don't feel like I'm getting the full potential of what I could be learning. And so clearly, I graduated high school. But again, like since everything was shut down, I was like, I don't know if there's a point in me going back to college if everything's going to be virtual. At the time, I graduated with summer. Things were kind of like you can be around more than one or two people at a time, but it was still like most things were shut down. The summer came and went, and when it was time to re-enroll, I did re-enroll, but things were still virtual at the time. And I, again, I went back and we would be in class maybe once out the week and I just didn't enjoy it. Like it felt, maybe it was that social piece for me, right? And it just felt not as fun as it did when I was in high school going to college and I was actually there and I was around people and I was learning new things. And so for me, I was just like, I don't know if I should do this, but I don't know if I can do this. And luckily for me, I have a supportive family. And my mom was like, then figure out what you want to do. Take some time, you're young. This is when you do it. This is when you figure it out. And so that allowed me to have that cushion and that support to be like, all right, well, what am I gonna do? And at this time, I don't know if you recall, but it's kind of overlapping the time when me and my cousin were already doing music. And I was just like, what if I take that seriously? And my mom supported me like 100%. Like, she helped me get connected with people. She helped me, like, she bought me a lot of my first pieces of equipment to make music at the house. And so, you know, from there, it kind of, again, changed my perspective. And I was like, well, and again, even ironically, I'm not a performing artist at the time right now. Back then, that was me kind of taking that step and realizing, like, maybe I can be an artist. Like, you know what I mean? And I didn't know what that would look like now, but I still would consider myself an artist, just kind of in the definition that Marie gave, like somebody that is, you know, a creator of the arts. Like, you know what I mean? Just in whatever facet that looks like. So definitely for me, it's shifted my perspective on whether you need a college education or not to be successful and to achieve and to still be knowledgeable of the things that you want or and are interested in. So yeah, that's me. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Awesome. We could start recording now.
Right? Like, yeah, we can roll the cameras now. That was great.
No, I just want to agree. Like, I have an education. Doesn't worth it.
Right, and I hear that a lot too. I'm like, everybody was in debt.
The thing is, the coolest part in a going to the university, in my situation, it's just having fun to talk with the people who interested in the same thing that you do.
Right. It's that social aspect.
Yeah, I mean, even can you? It's kind of funny when your teacher really interested in like drawing and painting, and you can talk about that, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just sound weird because most of my time I was in the school, I learned math and physics, and I'm not interested in it at all. It doesn't make sense for me. I mean, I like physics, I understand some of it, but it's not something I want to discuss with a teacher because I don't know. But talking with the people who's interested in the same thing, that's the best part. Not even like this books and
Right.
stuff. No. And it's cost a lot.
Right.
And right now you actually write and you say, like after COVID actually, that's became much more popular, that people don't need that kind of education. Everything you can have, all information, you can have all these courses and classes and everything. It's already written down. You can just read it. You can just watch it. You can just listen it. So.
Yep. And I wasn't trying to be $100,000 in debt either, 'cause that's.
Yeah. I mean, American education is crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Like
No
I
shit,
heard that their parents take money aside for kids and they not even born yet
Yeah,
and they
right,
already start to
exactly.
save for it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think what we can draw from this is just, if you like something, follow it and do it intentionally.
Absolutely.
I think that being said, I think this is a good time to close it out. Kyree, just want to give you the camera one more time just to let the people know who you are and where to find you.
Yeah. Like I said, you guys can find me at Kyree for King. That's KYREE, the number 4, KYNG on all platforms. And, you know, get in contact with me. Let's see what kind of magic we can make.
Awesome, man. And I think we made some here.
Yeah,
Really
absolutely.
appreciate you jumping on the platform and just having this conversation and getting to know each other a little bit better. And that being said, it's a picture time.
Thanks for having me.
A new whip on some true shit, and me and the family, and we went in back to back. We be like, this is how we do it. When it comes to beats, I'm fluent. They like King might start a movement. I'm an actual influencer. I guess that makes me my bad. So sad. They be like, King, we turn up, download it right now, but I bet y'all didn't even know that deja vu hit like a throwback. Wait, time froze, so let's take us a Kodak. Fuck, so let's be in the moment. I stuck, think my soul's reloading the pain and potent. I know that I'm chosen, the way that I'm flowing. I got a decoder, you see how they know that we going. I still like to go to club, this is collective, but really select the club. Think it's time that we told ourselves no more. Low vibration, this type of hell. While I'm writing and cursing some big world, but